I think the San Francisco 49ers would make one of the worst decisions in franchise history by not re-signing Brock Purdy and paying him top dollar. Now, we all know that quarterbacks are being paid an extreme amount of money at this point, and I talk about it all the time. If a guy's not going to be able to win you a Super Bowl, I don't see a point in paying him $50 to $60 million. And we've seen over the past few seasons, guys like Tua Tagovailoa, Dak Prescott, and Trevor Lawrence reset the market and be paid top dollar, and they really haven't done much with it. But also with that, you see guys like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert that are proving they're worth their money, and I believe Brock Purdy is in that conversation with some of these elite quarterbacks. Now, this has been a very bumpy season for the San Francisco 49ers. This Super Bowl regression has hit them hard, but I don't think it's Brock Purdy's fault, and a lot of people have been blaming him. First of all, you have to look at the injuries, the revolving door of wide receivers and running backs that this team has been dealing with. You see Christian McCaffrey down for the entire season. He missed that first part of the year. Now Jordan Mason, the backup running back who really had a great breakout season, also go down. Star left tackle Trent Williams has been out for a few weeks, and we've seen Brandon Ayuk, after he got that big-time contract extension, tear his ACL. Deebo Samuels missed some time, got pneumonia at one point. Ricky Pearsall, the first-round wide receiver that they drafted, got shot in the chest, unfortunately. We saw George Kittle miss a few weeks, Juwan Jennings miss a few weeks, and you see what I'm getting at here. This has been a historic amount of injuries that the 49ers have been facing right now, and for that point, Brock Purdy's even missed a week with a shoulder injury. So I just think you really can't put too much weight on Brock Purdy's shoulders with the entire injuries that this team has been dealing with. And I think with everything considered, he's been having a tremendous season. Now, these next few weeks are going to be monumental in determining what people think about him and what the San Francisco 49ers are going to do with him. Now, they came out and said they're going to give him a long-term extension, and I think that's a brilliant idea. I really don't see why people are starting this narrative that Brock Purdy doesn't deserve the money. And people have always been overly critical of Purdy, in my opinion. They said it when he was first drafted and was thrusted into this position. People said that it was his weapons was the reason why Purdy is a great quarterback. And we're seeing right now that that's completely false. With all the injuries that they had back against the wall, 5-7, this Niners team has to be pretty much perfect to make the postseason. Purdy went out and dominated the Chicago Bears. 38-13 win for the Niners. Purdy went out there, completed 20 passes out of 25 attempts. 325 passing yards on an 80% clip, 2 touchdowns, no picks, great passer rating. Brock Purdy is a very consistent quarterback, and it's been an up and down year, but he's showing you right there what he can do when his back is against the wall. Now, this 49ers team has a lot to do moving forward. They are currently 6-7. They're on the outside looking in the postseason, and it really seems like their only shot at making the playoffs and trying to make another deep run is to win the division. And they have Seattle at 8-5 at the top of the NFC West. You have the Los Angeles Rams at 7-6, and then you have the Arizona Cardinals, who are also 6-7 like the Niners, but they have the tiebreaker. Now, I look at these final 4 games. They're going to play a massive game on Thursday Night Football against the Los Angeles Rams, and I think if they can win this game, they're going to be 7-7 and quickly back into the number 2 position in the NFC West. Then they'll go on the road against Miami. I think this is a winnable game for them. It's going to be tough, but they can win this game. Then they'll see Detroit at home on Monday Night Football, potentially their season on the line. Can't wait to see how they fight through that adversity. We'll see what the injury status is looking like for some of their big-time guys. And then they'll go on the road against Arizona, another massive game, so they got an uphill climb. But I'll break down the entire division later on in this video. But let's stick to Brock Purdy right now. Why should he be paid by the San Francisco 49ers? Well, it's simple. His production on the field has been monumental. I believe that Brock Purdy, at the end of the day, is in a slight tier below your Patrick Mahomes of the world, your Josh Allens, your Joe Burrows, your Lamar Jacksons and Justin Herberts. But I believe that Brock Purdy, no matter who you surround him with, is going to be a very successful quarterback. Now, with these reports of Brock Purdy potentially getting a massive payday from the San Francisco 49ers, you have to look at all the other guys that they're paying. We saw Brandon Ayuk hold out this offseason and eventually get paid top dollar. We saw Trent Williams hold out for a little bit this offseason as well, and he got re-extended on his contract, got paid a little bit more. But you can go through the list. Brandon Ayuk's being paid $30 million a year. year. Trent Williams, $27 million a year. George Kittle, $15 million. Deebo Samuel, $23 million. Christian McCaffrey, $19 million. The list goes on and on and on. This is a very expensive roster, and it's getting old. And I didn't even mention the defensive side of the ball, where they have a lot of guys that are making top dollar as well. But you're going to have some of these weapons that the Niners are going to eventually have to move off of, whether that's a Deebo Samuel or whether that's a Brandon Ayuk that get traded this offseason to lighten up some of the cap load. But Brock Purdy is going to be looking at getting a deal from anywhere from $50 to $60 million, and that's the direction that the San Francisco 49ers are going down. But I also think he's just been a consistent professional. You look at when he was originally drafted by the 49ers, he didn't get a full offseason. He didn't get all those reps because, of course, he was Mr. Irrelevant, and so he came in as the third-string quarterback, eventually got to be the starter, where he'd go on to tear his UCL in the NFC Championship. Well, with that type of injury, he didn't get a full offseason to still get those reps with the receivers, with the coaching staff, really get that rhythm in. So he was kind of thrusted right back into it his second year, where he'd go on to lose in overtime to Patrick Mahomes. And people are quick to forget this was his first full off season with OTAs, with training camp, with all of those practices with his guys. And it was just freak accidents that all of these guys happened to get injured coming into this year and throughout this year. So I think with Brock Purdy, we have to take that into consideration as well. He's going to continue to get better. He's going to continue to become a better quarterback, but I think he's shown that he can be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's easily top 10 at his position. And right now, I think he's going to do everything in his power to get the San Francisco 49ers back in position to potentially win a Super Bowl. Now, I don't think with this roster, with how banged up they are, I don't think they're good enough to go out there and win the Super Bowl. And I don't even know if they're good enough to make the postseason, but I know he's going to do everything in his power to try and get them back there. And I look at this massive game against the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday night. If they can win, they'll be 7-7 and quickly back to number 2 in the division. Let's go team by team here. Like I mentioned, Seattle is 8-5 and at the top of the division. They've been red hot. At one point, they had a 4% chance to make the postseason, but they've quickly won 4 straight games. They beat San Fran on the road. They beat Arizona. They beat New York on the road, and then they beat Arizona again, most recently this past weekend on the road. But their final 4 games look really tough, which I think is an exciting sign for any 49ers fans, any Rams fans, or Cardinals fans. Let's look at this weekend, Sunday Night Football. They'll play the Green Bay Packers in a big-time bounce-back spot for Green Bay. Next week, they'll play Minnesota. They've been red hot as well. Very tough defense. They're 11-2 on the year, one of the most underrated teams in the league because they're in a brutal division in the NFC North. Then, on a short week, they'll go on the road on Thursday Night Football and play a tough Bears defense. Now, say what you want. This Bears team hasn't had the year that everybody thought they would. This is no cupcake game. This is going to be a tough matchup for the Seattle Seahawks. Then, to wrap up their entire season, they'll get a little bit of time because they'll play on Thursday night and then go back to playing on Sunday, but they'll go on the road against the Los Angeles Rams. Again, that could be another very tough game. That could potentially be for the division. So I see Seattle, if they're lucky, going 2-2 or 1-3. I think 2-2 is a stretch. I see them personally going 1-3 in those final 4 games. Now let's look at the Los Angeles Rams. They're currently 7-6. Second in the division, and they've been a lot healthier as well. Their offensive line was super banged up. They saw Nakua and Kupp go down with some injuries, and they got a big-time win over the Buffalo Bills on Sunday that I think gives everybody a ton of hope. But if the San Francisco 49ers can beat them, I think this opens up the entire division and some chaos might happen because then they'll go on the road against New York. I'm assuming they'll win that game, but then they will still play the Cardinals and the Seahawks at home, which at that point, divisional game, anything can happen. I think the Rams still have a very big possibility of going 9-8 as well and opening up the door for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, let's look at the Arizona Cardinals, another team that I still think can make some noise. They've got New England and then Carolina. I think they're going to bounce back and win 2 more games, put themselves in a position where they're 8-7. Then they're going to go on the road against Los Angeles and play potentially the San Francisco 49ers at a shot to win the division. You can see where I'm going with this. Every single team has a crazy uphill battle to try and win this division and try and sneak into the postseason. I don't think it's fair to write off the San Francisco 49ers, because if they win this game on Thursday Night Football, they're quickly back into the thick of things. And guess what? They'll have about 10 days to regroup, get a little healthy before they have to go on the road against Miami. And who knows, their season might come down to beating Detroit on Monday Night Football, and that's what I could absolutely see it being. So I wouldn't count out any of these teams from still winning the NFC West. I think Brock Purdy is going to prove to a lot of people that he absolutely deserves this money. He absolutely deserves to be the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. And guess what? If the 49ers would be dumb enough to not give Brock Purdy the money that he deserves, let him walk, and he'll still be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But I think Brock Purdy and the Niners will get a long-term deal done, and I think this Niners squad still has a little bit of hope, and I would not count them out. I'm Caden Kubler, and thanks for watching.